certification. It's time and grade, and then you get bonus points for education, experience, etc.
Huh. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councillor Gondovino. Councillor Harris.
I have a quick question for Chief Schultz. Let's say there's something that I've heard is very prestigious, and oftentimes folks who get to be the rank of captain or sometimes, like the FBI Academy, for instance. Is that something that most of your captains have gone to, for instance?
Madam President and Councillor Harris, after people obtain different positions, then there are training opportunities that are made available to them, such as the FBI National Academy. That's actually paid for by the FBI. The city does pay travel costs, etc., but the actual cost of the training is borne by the FBI. We also have Northwestern University, which will send upper command levels to, but those types of training are after promotion, and those are paid for by the city.
Okay, and they're actually paid while they're out there as well?
Madam President, Councillor Harris, that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillors. Councillor Benton to close.
Yeah, I just feel that this is,
Excuse me,
pardon me?
Madam President, I think that Councilor Gardino wanted to hear from Diego Arancon.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gardino, you should have told me that. We would have made that happen.
I thought I mentioned it.
No, sir.
I think the chief wasn't done yet. He wanted to say one.
Madam President, if I could add one thing, ma'am.
Sure.
Yes, please do, Chief.
The professional qualifications that we use they come from the National Fire Protection Association. They are the national standard for the fire service. And when you look at the high-risk events that we respond to, people have to maintain a certain level of qualifications in order to operate efficiently and safely on these high-risk incidents. And so what we're doing with Fire Officer 1 and 2, Incident Safety Officer, Instructor 1, and the officer accreditation programs for lieutenants, captains, and commanders, this makes for a better department, and these are national standards. When you look at a line-of-duty death report, it almost always indicates a lack of training for their firefighters. And so we have to do this to provide a high level of service to our citizens and provide for that firefighter safety contingency.
Thank you, Chief. Councillor O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. Chief.
Yes, Mr.
Chief Brain. Mr. Chief. Okay, I'm getting sort of mixed messages. You're saying it's important to have training and for the safety reasons, etc. So, bottom line is, do you support this amendment?
We could always use more in training.
Thank you.
Councillor Gardino.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you for instituting the professionalism through training of the department. But now I'd like to ask Mr. Arancon to answer most of these questions, or at least give the perspective from the person on the street, as it were.
Madam President, councilors, it's going to start snowing outside. We actually are in agreement with the administration on this issue. Respectfully, I think that training is probably the most important component to public safety. We do support the professional development program when it was first brought to the department with Chief Breen's administration. We had a start with that with the driver's program that we have, and we're trying to use the monies that are presented tonight to try to establish a lieutenant's school modeled after the driver's school that currently exists right now. The way we did things, in my opinion, was not pre-funded, and that poses unintended consequences. Sometimes, the initiative is there and the drive, the intent is all there, but the chief brought up an issue with workers' comp. And we're not, our employees, our members, our firefighters, paramedics, and training are not covered unless they're on a work code. And we confirmed that, I believe, with the officials at the city that obviously manage those policies. And that is our first concern, is that we don't know the severity or the hazard of your accident until it actually happens. We had a member where a hammer fell off the tower. He was walking by and he got hit in the face. Those circumstances can happen all the time. Few and far between. However, we have a situation now that's causing some disparity with the lieutenant's exam that just happened, and now we have the captain exam coming ahead of us. The fact that it was not pre-funded, it was not consistent with the past practice, was that we now have a disparity because there were some schedules of firefighters that did not plug into this training requirement. And I would argue that it is definitely mandatory, because if firefighter A would like to be promoted, he is required to have these courses on his own time in order to be even eligible to promote. That's our perspective. So without completely arguing over the program, we are in agreement that it's important. We've argued before council and the administration for 2 years now that a lot of our experienced firefighters and paramedics are retiring. This is a great program. We need to fund this. We need to make sure that they have the training appropriate, because we're losing a lot of the experienced mentorship that was in the field about 2 years ago. So I implore council to support this and let us sort it out. I don't believe that we need the language in here that it's subject to collective bargaining. I believe that the administration and the council can appropriate these funds to help us develop lieutenant school, maybe even captain school one day. And we would use any resources available to us to help the administration in this initiative.
Thank you, Madam President.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Madam President. So back to the collective bargaining. This revenue, the source is in a general fund. It's going to a general fund. So if it was bargained, if it was agreed upon in collective bargaining, if it was, we could always go back and appropriate it out of the reserves here. Is that correct? I mean, it's in the same place as it's going to be after it would be negotiated.
Madam President, Councilor Lewis, if in fact this has been negotiated, or if it is negotiated, the funds could clearly be placed into this particular fund at a later date or now. The language with respect to collective bargaining was just a cautionary term in order to make sure that everyone understood that the council was not trying to get ahead of the collective bargaining process if in fact collective bargaining is required.
Okay, Madam President, and real quick, I guess the next question would be then, is this something that maybe the administration missed when they sent the budget, their recommended budget down to us? Was it something that was talked about with the chief, and as you all talked about, budget priorities, and so maybe this was something that was missed in that process?
Madam President, Councilor Lewis, there were discussions about that. And it was a policy decision. I think the chief laid out basically the fact that the basic training components for occupational safety related to the various firefighter positions are provided. They're provided from the perspective of the technical training itself in-house and other methods. This really involves backfill. If you look at the language of it, that's what it specifically states. It funds paying the firefighter to be on city time and having to backfill that position with an overtime person or another firefighter while the person's at training. And so it's a financial policy decision. Certainly we see a benefit in providing additional training, but we also recognize that there's financial restrictions and limitations on the extent of training. It's a policy prerogative for council. Now, as it relates to the Mr. Thompson's position regarding it being a subject of bargaining, I tend to agree with Mr. Thompson that it's probably better to be the subject of bargaining, because we're in the thralls right now of a prohibited practice complaint. And I think this would be one more thing that if council was to agree to appropriate in this area, that it would be one more thing for us to take to the table that would show the city's seriousness, goodwill in taking this to the table and trying to get the bargaining unit to recognize that, in exchange for this, they have to act in good faith, and we would like to move towards a negotiated agreement. It would have a benefit of doing that, and it would certainly have a programmatic benefit to the department. And it would also have a benefit to the perspective of resolving the PPC potentially. It could be done at a later date too, as well. We could bargain for it, and then, as Councilor Lewis has suggested, fund it with an additional financial bill of sorts.
Councillor Benton to close.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I simply think it's an option that we have before us, councilors, to make a statement as a council that we support such a facilitation of our firefighters improving their skills and also advancing their individual careers. So I urge your support.
All right. Yes. Stephanie.
Yes, I have to point out that there is an omission from the the amendment that's in front of you. We would need to reduce the $3 million reserve in the general fund by $108,000. And that's a correction we can make if this passes.
Okay.
Question,
I'll
why 108,000 when it's a difference of
No, but since
from 55,113 to 55,213?
Right, President Jones, we would need to relieve the reserve money, and then because we're appropriating 100,000, we would have to increase the 1/12 reserve by $8,000.
Got it. Thank you, Stephanie. Councilors, let's go for a vote.
Yeah, I'll move that language be amended into the amendment.
Okay, there's that amendment, Stephanie. For floor amendment number 7, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes by raising your
Yes.
hand. Opposed? Opposed? Okay, motion carries.